People always talk about disruption now, right? Everyone wants to be the next Uber or Airbnb. But in its day, Waterbabies was disruptive because it was a new technology. And so the challenge was proving it.
This is where it all begins, so say goodbye to all your fears, all your doubts. This is where they die. This is where we come to win, we come to fly. This is where we make our dreams come to life. Welcome to Innovation City.
Welcome to Innovation City, a podcast featuring the innovators, disruptors, and creators who are making things happen today. My name is Michael T. Johnson. I'm here with my co-host Tyler Kelly, and we are at CIC St. Louis at Venture Cafe on a Thursday night. So Venture Cafe being the largest Thursday gathering of entrepreneurs and innovators anywhere in the world. So we are very excited today because we have Dan Lauer with us.
Hey.
Yay.
Dan Lauer. Just so everyone knows, Dan is the founding executive director at UMSL Accelerate. And just so you guys know, that's a University of Missouri St. Louis's entrepreneurship program. He's also the CEO and founder of Lauer Toys, which is the creator of the baby doll Waterbabies.
Waterbabies.
Waterbabies. And I'm sure that everyone who's listening or watching knows, if you have children, or girls specifically, you're going to know what a Waterbaby is. But just in case you don't know, over 24 million units sold in 26 years, making it one of the most popular girl
One of the
toys
largest selling baby dolls
ever.
So I remember growing up, my sister having, I'm sure she had more than one. But just where did the idea for Waterbabies come from to begin with? I'm interested in that story.
So Waterbabies was inspired by childhood memory of sisters playing with water-filled balloons. So we had 6 kids in our family, 6 kids in 6 years, a lot of imagination, not a lot of money. And so imagine little girls, 8 and 9 years old, writing with a Sharpie on a water balloon, smiley faces, taping them together, putting them in a diaper. And we had a lot of funerals because this wasn't a very stable product. But I, as a kid, would write these things down in my journal. I encourage everyone listening to keep a strong journal. And later on, I went back and looked and said, hey, what about that?
That's an amazing story because I remember watching my sister do something similar. So we've got video of this, her on vacation, and we had a water balloon fight, and she refused to pop her water balloon. And I think she held on to it for like 3 or 4 hours until it popped and she cried a lot.
So it's funny, people always talk about disruption now, right? Everyone wants to be the next Uber or Airbnb. But in its day, Waterbabies was disruptive because it was a new technology. And so the challenge was proving it. People were asking, how do you fill it with water? Do you fill it in China? How do you keep it warm? And so I had to overcome those hurdles. Pre-internet, pre-ecosystem. There was no Venture Cafe, right?
Yeah.
And so it was much different time then, but still the same discipline and principles applied. It's very Darwinian. Entrepreneurs have to make it happen on their own in many ways.
And how have you been able to make this thing last at such a high level for 26 years?
Well, I'd speak a lot about, there's 2 types of innovation for me. There's core innovation, and then there's leap innovation. So in its day, Waterbabies was a leap innovator. Then you go to every price point. So each year there's a new refreshment. Drink and wet, drink and cry, hair play, nap play, price points. We now have price points from $5 to $50. So that's how there's that SKU proliferation. So the people that wanted to constantly stay fresh are the Walmarts and Targets. They're like, what's new? What's new? And it's usually what I call renovation, packaging, features. The leap innovation that's exciting is what I spend 25% of budget on, and that is, how do you do a version 2.0 Waterbaby? So I actually have one. You know how you can charge your phone on a pad magnetically? I have a Waterbaby that I call a warmable Waterbaby that I can warm without wires. And so I'm always looking at that leap technology. In the meantime, core innovation is strong too. Just keeping it refreshed is good. Now that we're 25 years old, we have this loved as a kid, trusted as a mom thing going because we broke that generation barrier.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And let's take me back to outside of that initial invention.
Yeah.
Like the founding of the company. Was it bootstrapped? Did you get financing?
It was.
Back then?
So I'm an UMSL grad, 1983, and I went into banking. And I'm a change agent. I know now I'm a catalyst. I didn't know what that meant. And so at the bank, I was like, why are we taking so long to do that? And why don't we do that? And so I was a change agent, a great career, but it taught me a lot about business plans, about convincing folks. So when I was 26 and I did good things at the bank, I was like, what am I going to do now with my life? So a lesson I'd like to share for entrepreneurs is take chances when your life can afford it, right? I was 26, had a good career going, wasn't married, didn't have kids. I was like, I can take a chance now.
Yeah.
So I looked back on my record log of inventions, and I thought, oh, Waterbabies, the doll you fill with warm water that feels like a real baby. And then Cabbage Patch was happening in my day, and Pound Puppies was happening in my day, and the toy industry was kind of a fashion industry where an outsider could bring something in. So I thought, okay. And a lot of the pedagogy we're going to talk about later around UMSL Accelerate is what I learned in EO and what I learned in the School of Hard Knocks, and that is most people who are inventors don't have two things. They don't have enough time and they don't have enough money. And so I didn't either. And so in thinking about this, I was like, okay, how can I put process around this big dream? If you want something big in 3 years, I call it a BHAG, big, hairy, audacious goal. Work yourself back on a calendar. And what can I do really in the next 30 days? So I hired myself to work 10 hours a week. I put $100 a month into a business account. And I declared 3 things I was going to do those 30 days to folks that were near me. And I held myself accountable to it. So that's the process. The truth is, most inventors, and for me too, I wanted Mr. Mattel to give me $1 million and a 5% royalty. Mm-hmm. There is no Mr. Mattel. And those big companies get thousands of letters a week from it. They don't even open it. So the short story on Waterbabies is I wrote over 700 letters, got good at getting in, very professional, and my first prototypes were balloons and condoms tied together. Mm-hmm. So you can imagine their arms and legs working. And so what I got was a lot of rejection. And so for the entrepreneur who's listening, it's like, what do you discern about that? Well, first of all, they didn't say it's been done before. They didn't say it's a bad idea. They're like, well, how do you keep the water fresh? In this case, how do you keep the water warm? Do you fill it up in China? Do you fill it up? So they were asking the how. They liked the why. Yeah. So that was good. When you think about entrepreneurs today, it's all about what's the problem, what's the solution, and you better be talking to the customer about the discovery. So I got enough affirmation to say, okay, now I'll take the next step. Now this is not linear. There's many paths. Yeah. Ultimately, what I said was, look, why don't I raise $500,000 and make $5,000 and see if Mom's willing to spend $20. And she did.
Wow, that's amazing. So, how long did that process take from your idea to the letters? Because a lot of people talk about, the overnight success doesn't exist.
There's no such thing.
So how long was that initial process for you?
So I began imagining Waterbabies in Christmas. It was really January of '88. I quit my job at the bank in spring of '88, and I launched a test market in St. Louis in holiday selling season of 1990. So I had a very strong process. I had very clear plans. Everything went wrong, as always. My first shipments to market, 7 out of 10 of them failed. They leaked. Wow. But you guys talk all about tipping point. That was my tipping point because I had marketing running. I had my little commercial. Commercials in the day cost $300,000. Mine was $30,000 in the neighbor's house with friends. I had the banker going bonkers saying, "What's this boy doing? What's this guy doing playing with dolls?" I had all this media going. I had contests with Channel 11. But in this recall, I'd go to a store, Walmart, and venture, and I'd say, "Mr. Store Manager, we're brand new. We got this fresh 100% tested product. I'm sure your product's fine, but can you swap out?" He didn't know I was panicking. Mm-hmm. So I went back to my office, which was my world headquarters, which was my apartment, and had friends and family for 3 days straight. Imagine taking a doll out of the box, putting it in a bathtub, squeezing it for air bubbles, gluing it, drying it, in a pristine way so it doesn't look damaged. Yeah. But anyway, I was doing this one day, and the store manager said, "Hey, you got a hot water bottle doll, right? Feels warm and cuddly, right? It's November and it's cold. Why don't you stand at the front of the store with attractive women and hand them to customers?" Thank you. We sold hundreds of them. Wow. Couldn't get enough in there. So then we ended up sending a truck every night to the Bronx, New York, which was an old rubber duck factory, and ended up selling 15,000 instead of 5,000. Had orders for 60,000. So that was kind of our tipping point. From something bad.
And now, years later, you're giving back in the sense that the lessons that you've learned,
Absolutely.
you're helping students to kind of get those ideas off the ground. Tell me about UMSL Accelerate.
So UMSL Accelerate, we really want to be, in short order, the first choice for the entrepreneurially minded student in the region and in the country. So we're not going to play small ball. The origination came, in 2015, Waterbabies was celebrating their 25th birthday. And there's a dean over at UMSL, his name is Charlie Hoffman, who comes from industry, a tremendously successful man, visionary. And we had lunch, and we started dreaming about, what about a world-class resource that's today's pedagogy, that's today's lean canvas taught by practicing entrepreneurs, and what would So we set a couple big bars. We said, look, everything we do must accelerate student success. And how do we differentiate? We're sitting here today at CIC and venture cafes going on, and it's a crowded ecosystem. So do we need another what? So we really want to be purposeful and intentional about not duplicating, not cannibalizing. Where do we fit? So anyway, it was a wonderful kind of fall with what Dean Hoffman did was assemble all the deans, because innovation comes from everywhere. And so whether it be a nursing student with a surgical device or an engineering student, and so we started dreaming. And UMSL Accelerate was born January of 16 through a generous regifting of an old gift from Express Scripts.
So what is UMSL Accelerate? What are they trying to actually accomplish?
We have 3 pillars. We talk about educate, innovate, and collaborate. So on the educate piece, it's the in-classroom stuff. The 4 credit, we have a certificate in entrepreneurship. We're moving towards a full degree program of BSBA in entrepreneurship for spring 19. And it's good stuff. We know that if a student takes an intro to entrepreneurship class, maybe 1 out of 10 would actually be an entrepreneur. But the design thinking, the agile thinking, the soft skills that they're going to learn they'll be better employees in the region. So we're about that kind of change. But as you guys are entrepreneurs, you know that you don't want to be in the classroom. So if you think about the student journey, we invented Innovate to be the co-curriculum kinds of activities. So we have already one of the top student clubs. And in the student club, we talk about take-home value. I got a lot of this out of EO and Young Entrepreneurs Organization. Students don't want to sit and listen anymore. They want to do and make, and they want to connect, and they want to share with peers confidentially and trusted. So how do you create that environment? So we don't like to have keynote speakers. We like to have activities, because if you're going to be with us for 90 minutes, what are you going to take home that actually moves your life farther, faster? So all that stuff is really exciting, and students have just embraced it. We have an entrepreneur residence program. So if you've got an idea, we know that you don't have enough time, you don't have enough money. So how do we put a process around your dream that gives you sure, solid steps to kind of de-risk it, to do the customer discovery, to do the vetting, to see if this is something real in your life? So we've got over 30 active students. We've got some really cool things going on. We've seen about 50 students. There's a lot of teaching, because entrepreneur is a funny word. It's a scary word. How do I get payroll? Where's my salary?
Does this happen over like a semester or a year?
In the Entrepreneur Residence Program in particular, there's no start date or end date, as long as you're serious and intentional. And we'll see you every 30 days. We're developing a core mentor group. So that's going really well. And we take all comers. You don't have to be a student to enjoy this. We have a couple in the community that are doing really cool things. We have a legal clinic for the basics around patents and trademarks and LLCs and S-Corps. We want to do cutting edge first kind of stuff. So we're working with a group, I'm not ready to announce yet, hopefully in the fall, that does something really special for women entrepreneurs. How do we get that done? But as you know, as you read in the papers, we keep getting these budget cuts. And it's hard in this demographic world, to attract more students. So I was tasked with, how do we run this thing in the black on purpose from day one? So we needed customers. So educate is about educating in the classroom. Innovate is about pure experience and co-curriculum experiences. The collaborate piece is the in-ecosystem thing. How do we get students relevant experience in this startup environment we're sitting in a meaningful way? And so Do you have any questions about that? Or do you want me to talk about the collaborate piece?
No, talk about that.
So where I came up with kind of the accelerator side of it was, back in the day, we called these incubators. You remember shared office space with a shared printer and a shared admin? Well, everyone was doing that, and it was great. Below market value, you could come in, there'd be some camaraderie. But then the East and West Coast figured out if you had money, if you had mentorship, you'd thus accelerate the speed at which you go to market. And Y Combinator happened, and Techstars happened, and so there's these disruptors and these funds developing. And then you saw companies jumping in. So then Disney did one, Nike did one, Anheuser-Busch is doing one. You're like, why are they doing that? And they're doing it because Uber happened, and Airbnb happened, and large legacy companies are saying, we got to get out of our ivory tower, we got to think about talking to entrepreneurs, solving problems in our space. So I found out that Techstars charges these companies a lot of money to run accelerators. I thought, wow, why shouldn't we be in that business? And what would a university bring to an accelerator that's not existing? Again, we wanted to differentiate. Well, come to find out, a university-driven accelerator, first of all, we're the first one in the country to do one. What do we bring? We bring brilliant scientists and researchers, and in this case, from all 4 campuses. So we get 2 or 3 from every campus, from S&T, from Columbia. S&T is a great engineering school. They can vet applications. They can do trials and pilots with the founding companies. So that was wonderful and worked really well. In UMSL's case, we have 100,000 alone. So can we connect? It's always that 6 degrees of separation. If an entrepreneur has a need and we can put it out on our channel, is their connector or their mentors. So that's worked really well in our first one. And then we've got eager students. So you think about ecosystem, in our current accelerators, we can pay 10 students $2,500 each to learn. And in the first cohort with Ameren, they did great work. Not just getting coffee, it's about social media, it's about websites. One of the engineering students did this whole white paper on density of bolts because they were tying down this machinery that they use. So it's meaningful stuff. And they got to be in this ecosystem. They got to work here. And it's a culture change. So the collaborate piece, what I want to do is I call them corporate powered by programs. And we want to also be doing 3 or 6 of these a year as kind of a thought leader in the space. And of course, like any entrepreneur, you need your first customer. So we had our angel investor in Express Scripts. Thank you very much. How do we get customers? And so our first customer, you always have to start with the willing. And we were fortunate with Ameren that we had, the chairman there is a thought leader. And he's similar with the kind of entrepreneur mindset. Free from fear, maniacal focus on the customer, all these things we talked about with entrepreneur mindset. And fortunately, an UMSL grad. So Warner Baxter, who's chairman, I called him up and said, we want to do something really interesting. What is it? Bring it on. So over a series of conversations, we hired Capital Innovators to do our first one with us to do the accelerator piece. And we did this call to action last year, and we didn't know exactly what we were going to get. And they had a call to action looking for best and brightest. And look what they got. We got over 200 applications from all around the world. And just that data alone, now Ameren can see what is on the minds of smart entrepreneurs all around the world. So we culled it down. They invested in 7 startups, $100,000 each. But the engagement was what was so powerful. Yeah. So Ameren had liaison teams that once a week came over here to say, how can we help? Pilot, trial, can this technology work? Now, their people got to come over here so they got out of their ivory tower. They came over here to CIC and got to work with a startup. And so there's a culture change that can go on. Ultimately, they need these technologies to have solutions inside their infrastructure because it's all about their customer and they want a return on the investment. But then we did have the university engagement. So one of the companies was a fiber optic company that had a fiber inside a transformer that made it a smart device. Well, an engineer professor at S&T is doing something similar, 1 + 1 is 5, and they're doing a cool thing. So I call those unintended benefits. Students had a great experience. 4 of the 10 stayed on with the companies part-time. So a host of great things, so much that they did it again. And so this year, instead of 200 applications, we got 330 applications. So now I'm saying, wow, right? And so imagine First of all, imagine what we're trying to do when you think about disruption. We've got a state university. Think about the hierarchy and kind of what that means. With the public regulated utility doing something incredibly new and different. So kudos to, it takes a village. Kudos to so many people that said, yes, let's try this. And now we want to scale it. So I'm from the toy industry, right? And I don't want to be knocked off. So can we do fintech? Can we do health tech? Can we be the choice for upending economic, development? Can we be more permeable with the university and a corporation so that instead of just philanthropy going to companies saying we can provide an ROI? And so I think we've got something here that we want to scale.
So, I mean, it really sounds like a win-win. Like you've got established companies kind of being pushed into an innovative space out of their ivory towers, as you said, and then you've got these entrepreneurs that are getting funding and getting their ideas out there. It really seems like a win-win.
And to Amron's credit for they have an innovation center. They have a lot of big things going on, but this augments that. So wherever the company is in their lifestyle, whether it's they don't have an innovation center and they want to get into it, what the accelerator does is put energy and process around it and lets them taste and see. And so I think it's a good low risk way of exploring innovation. You read any corporate end report and the CEO's talking about innovation. What's that really mean? And a lot of them give lip service to it. What they mean, just like with Waterbabies, is, well, let's have a new package color.
Yeah.
But what about real innovation? And so in Amron's case, they're looking for real technology changes that allow them to deliver products and services cheaper and better.
So what do you think is, what's stopping you? What's the biggest challenge from going?
So, it's a long
regional
sales cycle.
growth?
It's a long sales
National
cycle. Companies are all looking, but this is relatively new.
Okay.
And we're talking to a lot of folks, and they're coming from good intention. And so I think we're going to see a couple this year, let's hope. But everyone's in a different spot. How do you measure ROI? If you've never done this before, it is new. And just getting access to the right folks. This is a leadership thing. The leader of the organization is going to want to create culture change and take bets on it and real innovation. Not every company wants to do that. You're so used to the quarterly return and doing what you do well that innovation can be hard. I'm confident we'll scale, but the other part of this is we're a non-for-profit. So I want to do corporate acceleration, but what about purpose-driven acceleration? So we're talking to some folks about how do we do a diversity, equity, inclusion accelerator. Imagine, so I come through the prism of trusting entrepreneurship, and look where we sit with Ferguson and UMSL and some of the issues we have in St. Louis. Why not shine a spotlight and say, do a call to action for people of color or women to, if you're working on a technology or solution in the diversity, equity space, well, maybe we can raise money and do a non-equity diluting $50,000 and do the same powerful accelerator that these corporates get with all the PR and all the mentors and all the engagement for this diversity space. How powerful would that be? How about a student accelerator? Do a call to action at the 4 campuses, SMT, KC, Rolla, Mizzou here, and do a runoff and put them through a boot camp and gift them money. So we can do all kinds of different accelerators. And the funny thing is, we're getting a lot of credit for the Amron Accelerator. That was not our first accelerator. Our first accelerator was a thing called Gateway Accelerate. It was from our friend from Mosaic, who the problem we were trying to solve was you have foreign-born entrepreneurs who are raising money here, can't get their visa. So what do you do about that? So we partnered with Arch Grants and Civic Progress Invested, and we said, let's do a call to action around if what UMSL can do is we can provide an H-1B visa because we're a university and a buy-app relationship. Wonderful, did a call to action, had the judging, the Shark Tank, all worked. Unfortunately, we weren't able to scale it because the election happened and H-1B visas fell out of favor. But we're willing to try anything that makes sense. If the problem's right, and the university is a good solution for it. But it's a good example of, test and see.
And you're right here in the CIC building in St. Louis, one of 3 at this point. You have a front row seat to what's happening in the ecosystem. So for those of the people that aren't familiar with the St. Louis ecosystem, maybe give some of your insights into what you see on a daily basis, where we've come, where we're
Yeah, I'm an insider and an outsider. Because in the 90s, when Waterbabies hit big, I was blessed with good revenue stream without a full-time gig because I license, get a royalty kind of thing. And of course, I have shareholders that have to pay returns too. But I was president of Missouri Venture Forum and worked with St. Louis Partnership on their incubators. And I'm an advocate for anyone that is serious about developing a product or service, raise their hand, I want to help. And so what I see coming into this is a lot of folks with good intention. And we're pretty mature. And we're still figuring it out. And so we think every accelerator has to be better. And where do we get traction? I don't ever want to be busy. I want traction. So whether it's the chamber or the partnership or Cultivation Capital or Capital Innovators or Arch Grants or I-10 or 630, they're all Stadia, they're all doing good works. Prosper, Brazen, and they all have niches. And so how do we all play well in the sandbox together? One of the things is, even from an UMSL perspective, I'm not looking for a 30-year job. I'm coming at this from a scarcity thing. How can we grow something really interesting and leave it behind? And so my motivation in the end, what I'm always constantly reminded by from my dean is we're in the business of teaching. So we have to think about that. So our thing is our students first, but then how can we add to the ecosystem in a relevant way and, be a thought leader. UMSL, 80% of our students stay here. And so we're a workforce development play too. And so, just being mindful about how to play with it.
It seems like you've probably seen a lot of things from your start with Waterbabies in the 80s prior to even like the whole digital era to today being involved in UMSL Accelerator. What's changed? I know there's like some things that are very much the same.
Oh my gosh,
but what's the biggest thing people need to know that's changing?
Well, I always say, so first of all, I'm gray, pale, and male. And so are we relevant today? I'm in my mid-50s. And yes, in some ways. Now, when I started, first of all, I've had tremendous success and I've had tremendous failure. And I'm certain I've learned more in the failure piece. So, School of Hard Knocks, I want people that work with UMSL or anyone to shorten the path and eliminate some of those mistakes if possible. So, and there was no internet. There was no ecosystem. And so, even when we think about sourcing applications, we got spiders and bots and things that can do leads. So I have auto-generating leads for applications. Well, that wasn't in my day. So the tools available to the entrepreneur, the ubiquitous supply of information, I don't think there's ever been a better time to be an entrepreneur. And so that's wonderful. But I would also say it's very Darwinian. You still need a leader with a great solution, willing to risk it all to make it happen. Pollyanna enough and crazy enough to leave a full-time job. So some of that stuff hasn't changed. And I think what we bring, what UMSL wants to bring, what experienced entrepreneurs bring is a discipline. Everyone wants the Uber and the Airbnb tomorrow, that overnight success of the corner office. It just doesn't happen that way. And so to hear that from us, older folks, I think helps. It's a stabilizing force. And then also, quite frankly, a lot of these resources, we're connected. So if you need a magnet, or if you need a prototype, or if you need some 3D printing, or whatever the need is, there's a chance in our collective Rolodexes we can find that sooner and faster. So I always say 95% of companies fail. 70% of companies who go through accelerators succeed. And so that's kind of the new way of entrepreneurship, is if you're not in an accelerator, it's harder to raise money now because there's a certain certification that goes on for vetting, right? So all of this is good, and it still is that great idea with that evangelist entrepreneur that is willing to make it happen. Nothing like that still happens. Nothing's changed there.
What would you say to the, and I don't want to say, I'm going to ask you what advice you would give, but not to like the person that's sitting at home that hasn't started yet. Yeah. The person that's like a couple years in and they may be making profits, but they just haven't hit,
Well, there's a lot of skill sets, resiliency, creative problem solving. We're just getting ready to launch our second Amateur Accelerator. We have 6 phenomenal founders with interesting technologies, and I'm telling them show up with intention, in the kind of I say be generously selfish, generous to pay it forward, generous within the cohort, generous of spirit, good karma, follow up, follow through, but also selfish. Take it all in, get noticed, be available. So show up with intention. And so that's kind of the advice I give is put process to your idea. You know, it just, what is that? An idea without a deadline is nothing. So we do bring a certain discipline and focus, intentionality.
Yeah, that's great advice. Dan, if somebody wants to find out more about either UMSL Accelerator or you, like, where should they go and find you?
Yeah, so, you know, UMSL Accelerates the space. I'm Lauer D at umsl.edu. And we're in all the social media, so immediately like us on Facebook and Insta and all those things. I think we're growing on that. And even there we're learning how to be relevant. I don't like to post 7 times a week. I want 3 interesting things that move you further faster. So we're easy to find. We're here at CIC, we're up at UMSL, and we really are open for business. And we have the rare opportunity, look what we have. We have a kind of a whiteboard space to create. How often do you get that? Yeah.
Dan, thank you. This has been fun.
Awesome, really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
See you next time.
For more episodes, visit innovationcity.co. Be sure to subscribe, rate, and review. And if you're in St. Louis, visit us on a Thursday night. Details at vincafstl.org. And connect with us on social at We Are Slam or at Venture Cafe STL. Thanks for listening.
This is where it all begins, so say goodbye to all your fears, all your doubts. This is where they die. This is where we come to win, we come to fly. This is where we make our dreams